juniors will go back to school, and I'll be performing Bluebells, an adaptation from a original by Austin Huss of House. Bluebells is a true story from January of 1919 when the Prohibition Act was up for vote in Congress. One day, Mr. Merle's attention was called to a little, pale, thin bootblack who had a bunch of bluebells in his buttonhole. He let the boy black his boots, then balancing a quarter on his fingers, said,
"Here is 10 cents for the shine and 15 cents for the flowers."
The lad put his small hand over the flowers and said, "No, sir, I can't sell them. If I was starving, I wouldn't sell a bluebell." "And why not, little man?" The lad looked at Mr. Merle so piteously that he was almost sorry he had asked him. "Excuse me for asking. You need not tell me unless you wish. And you can keep the quarter besides. I like you, and I'll tell you. Just a year ago this month, and it has been such a long year that I thought the bluebells would never come. My father was a drunkard. We once owned some property, I've heard Mother say, but that was before I was born. We got so poor, Mother had to go out and wash to get food for Bessie and me. We lived in a little log house a quarter of a mile from town. One Friday morning, there was only a plate of cornmeal and about 2 spoonfuls of molasses. Mother baked the meal into bread and told me to feed baby when she awoke and to keep a sharp lookout for Father while she was away washing that day. Bessie slept a long time, and I passed the time by sitting by her and going to the door to look for Father. When Bessie woke up, she said, "Baby's so hungry, Willie. Get something to eat." "Get up, Bessie, and let me dress you, and then we'll eat some breakfast." I had not eaten a mouthful, nor had Mother before leaving home, and I was dreadfully hungry. Bessie got up, and I dressed her and washed and combed her hair. When we sat down to the table, Bessie just dropped her curly head right down on the table and said, "Oh, Willie, I'm so tired of cornbread and molasses. I can't eat it. I want some meat and butter." "Don't cry. Mother will bring something to eat tonight." "But it's so long to wait." "Just try to eat." And I put a spoonful of molasses on her plate. And she did try, but she only swallowed a few mouthfuls and then left the table. I ate a small piece of dry bread. I thought she would eat the molasses, so I did not touch it. All day long, she kept saying she was hungry, but refused to eat. Father had not come home, and it was nearly dark. We were both sitting on the doorstep, and Bessie had set her head against my arm and began to cry. "I'm so hungry, Willie. Mother stayed so late tonight." "Don't cry. Mother will soon be here." "Of course she will," exclaimed George Anderson. He lived a mile beyond us, and as he spoke, he tossed a bunch of bluebells into Bessie's lap. "Oh, how pretty! Let me fasten them among your curls." Bessie stood up on the doorstep with her head toward the house. I had just fastened the last one when someone jerked me off the step. It was my father. He was almost crazy with drink. He caught Bessie and said, "You've been crying. What did Willie do to you?" Bessie looked so white and scared that I thought she would faint. "Willie didn't do anything." Father let her go and grabbed me. He commenced to shake me awful. "You rascal, what did you do to Bessie? You tell me or I'll shake the breath out of you." He shook me so hard I could not give an answer. Then little Bessie caught onto Father's arm and said, "Please, Father, don't hurt Willie. I was so hungry it made me cry." He went to the kitchen and saw the bread and molasses. "You little white ever look at that table, there's plenty to eat, and good enough for such a brat as you. And he shook her roughly. Bessie began to cry, and I tried to put my arms around her, but Father pushed me away. If you can't eat anything, I can give you something to drink. And he started down the path that led to the pond. Bessie hushed crying, but she looked awful scared. I'll give you something to drink, he said when he reached the edge of the water. I followed, scarcely knowing what I was doing. I was so frightened. He waded in about knee-deep. Bessie threw up her hands and cried, Willie, take baby! But the curly head went down. I waded around Father and tried with all my strength to raise her out of the water. I begged Father to take her out. He would not listen. Bessie threw up her hands wildly. Then all was silent. It seemed like hours to me, but Father at last lifted up Bessie's white, dripping face. I called her name wildly. Her lips did not move. She was dead. Father carried her and laid her down on the green grass. I guess you won't be hungry for a while. I was so stunned. I never moved nor spoke until I saw the bluebells I had twined into Bess's curls floating off in the water. I couldn't bear to see them drift away, so I waded out after them. The water was deep, but on I went. The water was up to my waist, over my shoulder, but still, the bluebells were just beyond my reach. But I must have them. The water touched my chin. Another step, and I caught them. Just as I did, Mother called. I looked for Father. He was seated on the ground beside Bessie. Mother called again. I was out of the water by now, but so weak I could hardly walk. So I crawled up to Bessie and took Father's straw hat and put it over Bessie's dead face to keep Mother from seeing it. When she came, she saw I was dripping wet with water. Willie? Willie, what is the matter? She lifted the hat from Bess's face and stood for a moment as if turned to stone. Tell me how it happened, Willie! Tell me quick! Then I found my voice and told her everything. She heard me, though without a word. But when I had finished, she stood with clasped hands over Bess's body and shrieked such unearthly cries that soon the neighbors came running. Father had drowned himself and his body was taken from the beautiful water and buried in the cemetery alongside Bessie. Mother was a raving maniac. And I put the bluebells in a little box and hung them here around my neck.